Hey! Here's a quick 10 minutes video tutorial on the role of credit and sales departments in creating effective credit applications. After watching this 10 minutes video, you will be able to understand the importance of a thorough review of credit applications, leveraging external resources for credit assessments, critical and optional elements of a credit application. Over the next 10 minutes, we will dive into the following topics: guidelines and best practices for creating a credit application, essential and optional information to include in your credit application. So, let's get started with the first chapter.
We're going to talk about guidelines and best practices for creating your credit application and what the process is and should be for getting it and processing it. The credit department is responsible for, first of all, getting the credit application to review, and that can happen in different ways, but that's the first step. Is you get the credit application, you confirm that it has everything you need, that it's complete, that it's signed by an authorized person, that any documents that you want to have attached to it are there. Once you've done that, then you will go to the bank and trade references that you've asked for on that credit application and confirm what their experience is and that it's in line with what you're looking for to approve a credit request. And then you order bureau reports in some form, and companies do this it depends on which bureaus you might want to contract with or buy on a one-off basis. In some industries, certain bureaus have better and deeper information, but you're buying a report that shows from the bureau's data gathering information about that applicant that can be very valuable. Also, to confirm that the credit application is accurately stated, how long they've been in business. You'll see the average days to pay, the high credit that other creditors have been engaged with, and you can also get a breakdown by industries. You can see kind of the way they behaved with your own competitors. Again, the key is once you get all of this, you maintain it in a confidential nature. It's not something you really share with sales, and you secure it so that if you need it in the future, let's say that there's a great relationship with a company and they've been buying from you at a fairly steady rate, and suddenly they want to place a much larger order, and it's something beyond the credit line that you've approved. You want to go back and review the credit application, maybe check with the references in the bank once again, and just make sure that as you increase that credit line, that you're doing it from kind of a knowledge base. This is an example of the role of the sales department, and companies treat this differently. I realize that, and it depends. Some companies have salespeople in the field that go out and actually engage directly with cold calls and so on, and they will provide the credit application to the applicant. That's where it should stop. The salesperson should not complete the application themselves. That is definitely something they shouldn't do. And they also, since there may be personal information on that credit application, they really shouldn't be the ones that deliver it to the credit department. Again, needs to maintain that confidentiality.
This video is powered by HighRadius, AI-driven autonomous finance solutions for the Office of the CFO to transform your order to cash, treasury, and record to report functions.
Give it a try.
So here's some of the essentials that you want on your credit application. You want to know what their address or addresses are. Again, it helps you to verify that you're getting correct information. They have a parent company. You want to know who that is. You want to know who the principals are. If it's a sole proprietor, LLC, a partnership, you want to know who is who are the owners of the company. You want to know what the federal employer information number is. Sole proprietors, you want to get their Social Security numbers. You want to know how much are they going to buy from your company over the next year, because that helps you set the credit line. If they want to buy, $10,000 from your company a month, then you really don't want to give them a $100,000 credit line. That makes no sense. There's quite a disconnect. So you want to understand what their purchases are going to be to calibrate the credit line that you ultimately provide them. And you want to know, who's currently supplying them, so that you can go to them and get references. You want to know who the bankers are, or what institution they've got loans with, and you want to know how long they have been dealing with the companies that they're using or banks that they're using as references. You want to understand the industry that they're in through the standard industry code, or the NAICS code, which is much more detailed. I prefer that one myself, but that's important, because knowing the industry that they're in, you have some idea of what the customs and practices are in that industry in terms of the terms that are common there and the nature and risk of their own business. So very important to understand that. And then their form, their corporation, a limited liability company, partnership, etc. This is important, particularly if ultimately you have to use legal means to collect. If it's a company that you can go directly to the principals and use, as a target in litigation, that could be a benefit to you, as opposed to going to a corporation that may have gone out of business. So you want to know how long they've been in business. You're looking typically for 3 annual cycles. That shows you that they have the ability to sustain themselves, make payroll, and remain in business for an acceptable length of time. A Dun & Bradstreet number, again, that helps you track them. It's and evaluate through Dun & Bradstreet, certainly, the creditworthiness. You want to understand if they've been bankrupt in the past, or other means for reorganization. You want to know their sales tax status, certainly, because that's a huge compliance issue for your company to have resale certificates on file if that's appropriate. Nobody wants to go through a sales tax audit, I can tell you that from personal experience. You want to get written authorization, and you want it to be signed by the correct authorized individual. And you want to know, the business location they have. Do they own it? Do they rent it? These are important things to understand. You can also, in some cases, get a copy of a photo identification. There are regulations. We'll talk about this a little bit in a few minutes, but particularly now, there's anti-terrorism regulations and so on. You really, in some cases, you want to know who you're dealing with. You want that photo ID. You might want financials. Certainly, if it's going to be a high credit line, you may want financials from the company. You may want to add a personal guarantee, the sales tax resale number. Again, basic information that you might want to add to your credit application. Certainly, if you're getting authorization to pull a personal credit report, you need that signature. You want to add that Equal Credit Opportunity Act statement. It might be an industry, like if you're selling spirits. You might need a license. There's other industries as well. You want to see that license. You might want to see credit card statements on a sole proprietor to see what they owe and how they pay, and other names and addresses and so on that would be of interest in tracking them down if something goes south, and also confirming that it's the business that you're dealing with is the one that you're really dealing.
This video is part of the Highako Academy's Industry Credit Reports Assessment Skills Certification Program. This online certification program is designed to equip credit professionals at all levels with the skills to do the credit risk assessment, process credit applications, and analyze credit reports accurately. Earn a digital skill badge and certificate once you complete the certification. Check out the link in the description for more information about the skill certification. If you liked what you learned in this video and want to learn more, subscribe to our channel and leave a thumbs up. Which other credit, collections, or treasury topics would you like us to cover next? Tell us in the comments section below. See you in our next video.